Welcome back. It's still Hot Seat with me, Akintayo, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, venue of the ADF8 Forum. I still got Dr. Moyo and Peter Nhume in the house. And let's go back to Dr. Moyo. The issue of what we are here to discuss is the harnessing of natural resources to the benefit of the grassroots, which is your area. What are the challenges and risks involved in this area?
Look, the challenges really are precisely this whole paradox of plenty. So what we're advocating for at one is for countries to sign up to the EITI, and on that point, the Extractives Industry Transparency Initiative. And on that point, I want to acknowledge and commend the fact that 21 African countries have indeed signed up to EITI, which is very important. It's a very important first step. And in addition to that, a number of countries have gone even further. Liberia, for example, has put in place transparency laws, which enabled them to renegotiate some of these things and change the economic trajectory of that economy, of that country, in favor of the country and the citizens. So that's one good example. Ghana as well has put in place a system where you can actually track the money, you can follow the money, so to say, and track the results. So you can see what happens from the source to the service delivery. And then you have Sierra Leone. They have an online portal where you're able to see what the revenues are in Sierra Leone. So there's a lot of good examples in Africa, and then of course the celebrated example of Botswana, which is really, the example of what it means to have good leadership stewardship over natural resources.
Well, Dr. Moyo, a lot of people appreciate the work you do, a lot of people do in this area, but there is this concern that even with all these conferences, the forums we are attending, the people who are supposed to implement this, that's talking about the leaders, they don't put them into use.
Well, that's why
it should be a source of concern to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why we at One try to work closely with the leaders, and one of the things we're asking the African Union right now to do is to revise the African peer review mechanism to include revenue transparency around minerals and extractives on the continent. So in addition to asking the African leaders to sign up to EITI, in addition to asking our African leaders to put in place legally binding measures or transparency laws, we're also asking the African Union, as sort of the global body of the political body for our countries, to revise the APRM so that it speaks very specifically and very directly to natural resource governance and the revenues and benefiting citizens in African countries. So that's very important, and that's something that we're really sort of advocating for. But also, would like companies to be wholeheartedly committed to being transparent and to really striking fair deals with the countries and the people. So you have all these players coming together, and that's what really is important. And I think even civil society in a lot of these countries needs to be given the space, and the platform to engage on an equal level, on an equal footing, with government and with the private sector, so that you have sort of this three Ps, the public, the private, and the people coming together to renegotiate and harness these resources so that they benefit people. So I think for me, as sort of, that's what I would say, coming from One, that's what we would like to see, is to see all of these different pieces coming together.
And talking about transparency in the mining sector, that just like Peter just told us, are you not worried about the fact that even there is a kind of problem even within the union? It's not transparent enough to be able to come together, because we were talking about transparency in governance, transparency from investors. Well, are you not worried about also the people that are supposed to even fight for the workers? They are also having issues.
Well, look, all institutions and organizations, are always sort of in a state of growth, development, and evolution, So I'm sure that the AU has in place, certain reforms that enable it to increase and improve its effectiveness and its efficiency. But that is the organization, the political body that we do have on this continent that we can count on to really bring some of these issues to the front and to influence its members really when it comes to transparency. And they do have the APRM, which is an existing initiative and a very important existing initiative. And I think that the African Union is best placed to take a look at the APRM, revise it so that it speaks very specifically and very directly to the issues of governance in natural resources.
Okay, Peter, the issue of the scramble for Africa's natural resources, it's been there for years, but with this global recession, there is this greedy, I would say maybe the desperation for everybody to come to Africa. And you said something about African leaders being desperate for investment, but it's like we have to look at the balance. Like when we had President Mohai of Botswana, he said something like some people don't want to give out their land. They believe so much in agriculture, but there are so many things down there that will also do everybody good. But it just has to be a balance that they don't suffer for giving out their land. What do you think could be done, especially from your union, to make sure that there is a balance, even when people are coming to scramble for Africa's wealth? Even the people who are working there and the locals benefit a lot, not just having peanuts.
We are happy in that the AMV maybe will assist to a certain degree, since it has buy-in from all these governments. We are hoping that with it will get maybe regional integration, policy coherence, where maybe you find we don't find a situation where one company or one country and undermines the continental effort by giving out contracts maybe which are detrimental to the growth of the country or to the growth of the continent as a whole.
Yeah, but do you have a sub-regional body that takes care of mine workers all over Southern Africa? Just like we have the COSATU, the NUM, maybe you come together to have a very strong union, even if Zimbabwe is still struggling with development of the unions. Don't you have South Africa is well grounded? Do you have something to a union?
Yeah, we engage. We engage with within the southern region, and the network. It's a global network of unions, and we assist each other in many respects. That's why you find that if an issue, maybe a legal issue we face in Zimbabwe, can be put forward to ILO and so forth. Yeah, so in that regard, we do assist each other. But what I was trying to get at was that as long as governments themselves get inferior contracts, they give inferior contracts to finally affect the workers. If from start the governments are strong, they negotiate for good contracts, and they are knowledgeable about maybe their products, they are knowledgeable about their reserves and the quality of reserve, the quantity of reserves, they come up with good contracts, and they come up with good conditions as well, which should be in the contracts. That way the miners will also benefit. But if they just show desperation and they just they allow the investors to come in and just excavate, that they are not worried whether the investor will build roads, whether they will build clinics, and all those, whether they will build houses for workers, it becomes a problem. That's why I'm happy. My sister talked about, I think even in the meetings we've been talking about these renegotiations of contracts. In Zimbabwe, actually, we're facing one such issue. You could have heard about it, the ISA deal, the New Zim Steel deal, which is worth 750 million, or it was put at 750 million. But later, after signing the contract, they realized that the iron ore is worth more than 30 billion.
Ooh, my goodness.
So
that's where you have, instruments like the African Legal Support Facility. That's a great instrument that potentially can actually provide the capacity for our countries to structure the right deals.
Yeah, but the question is like, why don't the governments involve? Why don't you try to force yourself on the government to get you involved before they sign anything? Because what you're just talking about, it happened in Nigeria. The Ajaokuta smelting company, it was sold to a Russian company. And by the time the people went to analyze the thing, got back with their report, they found that it was like triple or even more than a lot of money, more than, and the company quickly paid. And now they are back in court because they want to start the bidding all over again. So why is it that you're not really forcing yourselves on the government even before they signed contracts, so that you don't have to be talking about the after effect?
That is the ideal. The idea is for us to participate in that. But again, it depends with the governments and whether you are allowed to play that role which we are talking about. Maybe government sees it as their preserve. But I agree that we need to be more active and try to push until maybe they accommodate our views, or at least we are part of those people who negotiate, or we should be involved, rather.
Yeah, but are they planning to involve you in the future when they want to sign contracts? Are there any plans?
They don't involve us, I think, and I believe that they won't do it willingly. We need to really, like we were saying initially, that we need to force ourselves into the process. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Moyo, you heard from Peter. It's really worrying. From your organization's point of view, what do you think they could do? Because at times forcing yourselves could cause a lot of troubles. But in a peaceful way, what can they do?
I think they need to persist in doing what they're doing, and also, I think the space and the capacity for civil society to engage needs to be improved, significantly, because we are talking about the future of Africa, and we are talking about African citizens. So I think the space and the capacity of civil society to engage needs to be improved. Peter talked about the fragmentation of the unions. So it's these sort of basic things that need to come together. But at the same time, some of these things require more than just the will of these unions to come together. For example, the whole negotiating thing is a skill, that requires capacity that needs to be supported or even funded. So we're calling upon, those that have the means to really support the civil society space and capacity in Africa, starting with our African leaders. I think they need to begin to appreciate the important role that civil society actually plays. They need to see civil society as a partner in development, rather than going against the government. What really it is that government can leverage civil society for a partnership that really benefits both the government and its people.
Now, on the final note from your end, Dr. Moyo, your advice to people out there who still believe that all these conferences, the fora we always have, they amount to nothing. Your advice for them, maybe message of hope.
I think there's a lot of hope. We're very proud of the African mining vision.
Yeah.
We're very proud of the African mining vision. I see a lot of potential in the APRM, which is the African peer review mechanism. If that can be revised and shaped very specifically to address these issues, I think we have a great platform there. We also, I think we can leverage the regional economic communities, like SADC for Southern Africa, for example, in bringing about this EITI compliance. So there's just a lot of what you really need at the end of the day is all of the players coming together. So, you've got the African Union, you've got the governments, you've got the regional economic communities, you've got the private sector, which is the companies, and you've got civil society. So I think all of us just really need to come together. These are important brainstorming sessions and, opportunities to share best practices. And I go back to the example of Botswana. Botswana has never been shy to renegotiate. And you can see what's happening in that country, the transformation. And that's what we need, is to transform transform our countries, because this whole conversation is about social economic transformation and the end of extreme poverty on this continent.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moyo. And Peter, your message to the mine workers back home, because you're here to brainstorm on their behalf. So what message or hope are you taking back home?
No, I will tell them that, there is hope, mostly because of the AMV and the guidelines it has, which foster participatory engagements and gives space to civil organizations. We hope that maybe if that is pursued vigorously, we will see different countries actually accommodating the voices from civil organizations.
Okay.
That way, obviously, we will have our chance to engage effectively with governments for better conditions for the workers.
Okay, Peter Ngumbe of the African Minor Unions of Zimbabwe, thank you very much for coming. And also to Dr. Sipo Moyo, it's really nice to have both of you on the show, and it's been educative, and I'm sure Africans will be happy to know that a lot of things are happening to alleviate poverty on the land. So we're still asking if you have suggestions on how to move Africa forward, because the question is, why is it that with the vast natural resources Africa possesses, the people are still poor? Send your comments to us, voxafrica.co.uk, that's the website. We'll be back with you some other time. From Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, we say goodbye.